Hi, everybody. Dr. Kathy again. All right, today we're going to talk about conversations, okay? Sexy conversations, which is a form of communication, right? So, communication is very important, vital, extremely important in terms of relationships, success, failure. Communication is so important that people go for classes, take courses on communication. And I really think we all should take classes on communication because we all have issues in terms of how we were brought up, how to communicate. We learn from our parents, right? And we don't really know how to communicate properly because we didn't go for class. So if you did go for class, lucky you, that's the best way to do it. Go for some classes on how to communicate, which are psychology classes. And they're very in depth, very critical if you really want to improve your communication with your friends and your family and loved ones. Okay. Now, sexy communication is a little bit different from just regular communication, right? What is communication? Communication is an exchange of information, right? Could be news, could be something, comedy, could be anything, right? So it's an exchange between two people where you are able to clearly, succinctly, and plainly talk to someone or a group of other people, right? So if you are able to have that back and forth communication, which I love, right? You're communicating. Now, communication, sexy communication or conversation is back and forth communication between people regarding sexual issues. Okay, so sexy conversation is something that you'll find not everyone can have. So the question is, do you know how to have a sexy conversation with your partner? Now remember, sexy conversations are more auditory, right? So if someone loves to hear words and loves to um, be told things, right? We call that the language of love, right? Being spoken to, confirmation in terms of telling them how you feel. You'll find that they will respond much better than someone else that doesn't really care about, communication in terms of confirmation of the language of love. So for most people, you got to sort of like find out the language of love, right? But I think we all have these varying degrees of the five languages of love. So communication is going to be key for all of us, and you're going to have to use it sexually and in regular life. So understand communication is that exchange of information. Communication is that exchange of sexual information, and it's got to be done tactfully. It's got to be done with taste, right? All right. So let's talk about the different types of communication. Okay. So there are five broad types of communication. The verbal, where we talk, right? So we can talk to one another, have that conversation, that two-way street, and then you'll be able to sort of like explain what you're trying to say to someone just by using words, right? Now, again, that's the complicated way of communicating because sometimes you'll say things that you think they understand and they really don't. So, sexy communication, sexy verbal communication has to be something that they understand, right? So, depending on the words you use, you might turn someone on, you might turn someone off. So, choose your words carefully. Now, I was talking to a psychologist friend, and he said that sometimes you got to find out what those words are. You have to sit down and have a conversation as to what words you don't mind and what words you mind. Okay, so that verbal communication can be done by talking, and you are able to expand your sexy communication by talking more about sexual issues. And again, it can go from words that you love to things that you like in the bedroom to what you want to do in the future to what you're willing to elevate to and what you're not willing to elevate to, right? So communication is going to be based on that fact of verbal communication. Now remember, we also have the written communication. So texting, right? Sexting, right? Really popular these days. And if you're a poet, you'll know how to sext very well. And I think sexual texting or sexy texting has to be appropriate. Again, all of this should be with consenting adults. These are, again, my personal opinions. And you really want to be able to learn it and improve on it because it does really impact some people and turn some people on extraordinarily. And you'll find that some people more than others love written, right? They just love to read. And again, is that a language of love? Absolutely. If you like to read and you like to watch, these are different ways of communicating with someone, and you've got to learn how that your partner and yourself likes to have communication. So you can also communicate that to your partner, how you want to be communicated to, right? So it's a two-way street. So that written communication, sexy written communication, you got to be careful, make sure adults, is really a turn on for people. And if you don't know how to do it, you can learn how to do it. Again, there are classes, there's courses you can take online, and you'll be able to learn how to do things tastefully and appropriately, all right? Not just randomly, but it has to have that deeper meaning for your partner so that just the two of you understand what it means, right? The better you are, the more you make it towards your partner, the more the partner will be appreciating of your attempt to turn them on sexually, and later on you'll get the benefits, right? So very important to use that texting or sexting skill by written communication or email. Again, some people back in the day would write letters, right? Or drop little sticky notes. Again, these are different ways of doing things that will turn on your partner, including games, right? There are a lot of games that you'll have that they will say, go and do this for me, or let's do that, or just surprise them and then say, hey, let's meet over here and do something. So again, these are little surprises you can use by written sexting or written notes that your partner will love, and that will probably be a surprise, right? A nice, pleasant surprise for your partner. Okay. All right. So another form of communication is nonverbal. Okay. Now that's very important, right? So you have again these big gurus that actually study on how to read nonverbal cues. These I guess in the army and all these CIA and all these secret agencies, you'll find that they have to learn that so they can read people without even saying a word, including even investigations, FBI and criminal investigations. You'll find that people are able to read people without having you say a word. So you also have to learn how to read your partner, right? Non-verbal cues. This is especially very important in the bedroom, okay? So if someone is in the bedroom and you notice that they're pulling back, are you listening? Are you paying attention? If someone is pulling back, you've got to stop and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. And you don't have to say anything, but you got to slow down and you have to say, okay, what is she trying or he trying to say, right? Very important. Don't say a word, just step back with what you're doing if the person is retracting or pulling back. Now, the person says, gives me more. You're going to say, give me more. And you're going to want to please the person by giving more, but be careful. Don't give too much, right? So that fine line of, is it too much or is it enough? You're going to have to know by non-verbal cues, right? Especially in the bedroom. So you want to be able to feel and listen, right? So not only feeling and feeling how the person is feeling in terms of how you are responding or how you are going in terms of what you're doing, you want to see how her response is. So whether it's a sound, whether it's a movement, whether she's moving you towards or away, sometimes they're moving you away and it's like you're not sure whether it's a true moving away or a testy moving away that they want you to actually come forward. Yes, it takes practice to know your partner, so please learn how to watch, feel, listen to non-verbal cues. So if someone we all know is grabbing their arms like this, right? We know that's a closed message. They don't really want to communicate. But if someone has their arms open and they're trying to hold you tightly, you're going to know that they want whatever you're doing to continue, right? Another example would be curls, toes curling, right? That's supposed to be a message of enjoying whatever is going on in the bedroom. Also, if someone is arching their back, they're enjoying that, so continue, all right? So again, without saying words, without writing anything down, you'll find certain movements are very important, right? And certain sounds, again. turning their heads to the right or to the left. Sometimes if they're doing it with joy versus anger, they'll be saying no like that. They'll be doing that and they'll be cringing. So be careful. Watch out for those nonverbal cues so that you'll be able to be attentive and adjust accordingly. Okay? Okay. That's number 3. Number 4, I love, and it is active listening. Okay? Active listening is where you hear what the person is saying to you and you say back to the person or the people what you understood from what you heard. Okay? So when someone says something to you, you want to return that conversation to them by saying, "Oh, I understand that you meant or said this, or I understand that you wanted to say that." And when you are able to repeat back to that person, then you're able to understand what the person really said. So taking it into a sexy conversation in the bedroom, if someone's saying to you, "Do it more," and you say, "I want you to do it more," as a confirmation, right? So you turn back to the person and say, "Yes, do it more." And that conversation is going to be held between the two of you. And when you're having that um, active listening, you're actually listening and you're going to say something so that you confirm to the person that that's what the person wants. Because if the person doesn't want that, hopefully the person's going to say, "No, don't do that," right? And that's where safe words come into. Sometimes when you're trying to communicate, some people will have safe words where if you're going to elevate the game in the bedroom, you have a safe word that will tell the person to stop again, right? So active listening, you got to hear that word and stop, right? But the most common way of using active listening is when someone says, or you agree at the beginning of your relationship or when you're deciding to be intimate, that you are going to repeat and say, "You know what? When I like something, I'm going to say, do it more," or "Yes, I agree with what you're doing." And you can be very descriptive. "Do you like when I put my fingers here? Do you like when I do this to you there? Do you like when I put you in this position?" And the person says, "Yes, do it more." And the person will actually be able to say, are you saying this position or that position? "Yes, I like this position," and "Yes, I like that position," or "No, I don't like that position." So that active listening is two ways. You're actually saying something and she's hearing you and she's responding by saying the same thing back as she understands it. And then you'll be able to tell by her tone, by her words, whether she's being truthful or not, because sometimes, yeah, they can be a little bit confusing. So be as clear as you can at the beginning of the relationship or at the beginning of the courtship that you want to do that in the bedroom. You want to be communicative, because some people don't want to communicate at all. I understand some patients always say to me, "Dr. Kathy, I don't want a word to be spoken." And I'm like, okay, that is your prerogative, but again, be clear with your partner to make sure that your partner understands that too. Okay. All right. The last but not the least is contextual communication. Contextual communication is where you are actually communicating with someone and you're trying to put yourself in their shoes. That's my favorite advice for couples. Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in her shoes. Okay? So if someone says that they went to the bar, that they were tired and they went to the bar just to relax, right? Or the strip club, right? To relax. You're going to now have to understand that this person has probably had that habit from before and put it into context and not take it personally, right? But if out of the blue they are doing things like that, then you're going to have to wonder, okay, what's going on with this? Is it new or is it something you didn't even know about? But contextual communication is very important because whatever they're doing, you want to put yourself in their shoes. So what if I grew up like that? Or what if I grew up like this? And what if I didn't grow up like that, right? So you also want to know, okay, this might not be for you, right? In terms of how the person grew up, right? So you want to see their environment, right? You want to see their situation. What sort of situation are they in that I've got to now say, okay, what would I do in that situation? I have a favorite saying that I say a lot: never say never, right? Never say never, which means if something happened and you had to do something, would you say, "I would never do that"? I would say never, because you never know the situation you're in, right? The circumstances you're in, that you might have to do something, right? That you never would have thought you would do. And the best example I can give you is prostitution, right? Prostitution is something that people do, and we know that in some countries it's legal, right? They've got the red zone, the red district where they can go and they can do that legally, or they're protected. And in some countries it is absolutely not legal, and they can go to jail and get arrested for that, right? So I always say, if you got into a dire situation where you were not able to feed your family, or you're not able to do something that was critical, you needed a certain amount of money, would you prostitute? And that answer would have to depend on each person. And I would not judge them. And I would say, you know what? Depending on the situation, you never know, right? Yeah, some people say, oh, I'll never do this, I'll never do that. Contextual communication means that you understand that you've got to put into context depending on the situation. So you want to say, oh, yeah, if everything's going smoothly, I'll never do it. Fine. But you never know what would happen if the change occurred where there was some devastating news and they were now left homeless. You never know what people would do, right? So when it comes to sex and contextual, same thing. Porn is something that a lot of couples sometimes love to do, and some couples, one wants to do it and one does not, right? I had a couple where he loved porn and she didn't. But unfortunately, she was told from the beginning, listen, even though you don't like it now, you're gonna have to learn how to do it later on in the relationship. And they did get married, and she did, promise that she was going to try and learn and like porn, but she had a hard time. So when they came to me, I tried to encourage her to understand that there is some good porn and there's some bad porn. So if you don't want to listen to porn, just choose the good ones and let him sort of like choose them with you. So together you can actually meet that happy middle and try and please each other. But yeah, we do know that there are really, really serious different types of porn out there, and some relationships can't handle that dichotomy in terms of what they want to watch and what they don't want to watch because they don't get turned on. But if you're able to put yourself in their shoes and understand that they actually either grew up like that or they had certain circumstances where they were watching porn and they were just turned on by that, you're now going to have to understand that that could be something that you're going to have to deal with in the future. And you decide whether you want to take that or not, or accept it or not, okay? So contextual means, again, situational, environment, the population, the culture where they come from. Someone comes from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, from Canada, from Alaska. You're going to have different things that come up that will make you say, if I were in their shoes, right? If I were up there in Alaska where it's cold and dark early, right? No, light a lot, right? Depending on the time of the year. You're going to have to see that people are going to have different interactions during the day and the night, right? Some people might be night owls and some people might be early birds, and you don't know how to handle that because they also come from a place where that they were always early morning risers, right? So you have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to have sex in the morning when they want it or at night when they want it, depending on the time. And then you'll be able to communicate with them and say, you know what, I can handle this by putting yourself in their shoes. But if you don't put yourself in their shoes, you're not going to understand. So very important, put yourself in their shoes when it comes to any argument, any issue. Always step out of your body, literally, and step out of it and look back and say, okay, let me look at that person from a different angle. Not always one angle, okay? All right. So those are the 5 ways you can communicate sexually and regularly too. So put both together. You want to be able to communicate in a regular when it's not sexual and when it's sexual. And you want to sort of turn on that heat when you're doing it privately, when you can actually be more intimate and a little bit more risque when it comes to conversations, right? But that brings me to the extrovert and the introvert, right? If you're an extrovert, that's going to be easy for you. If you're an introvert, not that easy. So extroverts are said to be very flirty and have more sex than introverts, right? So are you an extrovert? Then that's going to be easy for you to have sexy conversations. But the introvert is going to have a harder time having that conversation because they're really not used to saying things out loud. They think more before they speak. The extrovert speaks before they think, right? In general. So when you're an introvert, you still have a lot of advantages because people like people that actually think before they speak because they're more serious, right? They're more loyal, right, than the extrovert. So there's no win or lose situation here. You just need to know who you're dealing with and who you are, so that when you are communicating as an extrovert, it's not taken out of context, right? Because the extrovert loves to be the life of the party sometimes, while the introvert is more reserved. So the introvert can be appreciated and can be great as long as you are able to bring them out of their shell, communicate properly, and have them understand what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so that extrovert and introvert person has to be able to understand that sometimes they'll attract, right? Opposites attract, and you'll have that nice uh, relationship, especially if one is able to meet them and make them become a little bit more of an extrovert when an introvert, and make the extrovert become more of an introvert when they're too much of an extrovert, and they make that happy balance. It could work a lot of the time. So you got to see whether that's the situation you're in. But two extroverts are going to be a little bit out there. Two introverts are going to be a little bit in there. Again, if it works, it's okay as long as you communicate. Okay. And that brings me to my final discussion, which is the personality type. Okay, it's crucial for you to know your personality. So I'm going to encourage you to take either the Myers-Briggs personality test or any temperament evaluation test. My favorite is the temperament evaluation test, which talks about sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. Okay, so the sanguine is the talker, the life of the party, loves to chat. The choleric is the doer, just walks around and says, okay, let's do this, let's do that. The melancholy is the organizer, right? Likes to make sure things are in place. And the phlegmatic is the laid back person that really just wants to chill and just wants to watch a movie at home and eat popcorn, right? You're going to have to understand who you are and who you are with. Are they sanguine, choleric, melancholy, or phlegmatic? And you can do these tests where you can find out what they are, because sometimes when you are not able to communicate, that could be an issue. All right, so you want to sort of like figure out who you're dealing with. Now, why do I say this? Because sexually, the sanguine is the top notch in terms of being open to different ideas and different um, escapades in the bedroom, right? So you really want to have that knowledge that if you're dealing with a sanguine, that she or he can take it to the top real fast, right? The choleric is more of the thinker. Before they do anything, they're going to think, what are the pros and cons in this, right? They'll still do it. So they're next to the sexy person in that personality group, right? They're really, really able to do things, but they're going to think before they do it, but they're going to do it, right? The melancholy, goodness, you've got to have everything organized before they do it, right? So sexually, they will have fun, but it's got to be in the right place at the right time and organized on their schedule, okay? Then the phlegmatic, they actually can be great lovers, but the problem is that that's what they want to do all the time, right? They want to chill, make love, just have a great time. And sometimes you got work to do. So again, if you're dealing with any of these personalities, go in depth, take the personality quiz, find out what you're dealing with so you can have a better communicating skill with them, so that they'll be able to understand you and you will be able to understand them. So I love talking about that. But enough for tonight. I would love for you to take those tests. Myers-Briggs is great. And again, the temperament evaluation test would be awesome to find out how you can improve your communication with your partner, sexual communication, especially when it comes to the bedroom, to turn them on so that you'll have a great time when it's time to get between those sheets, okay? All right, y'all. Nice talking to you. Talk to you tomorrow, okay? Bye.